Good evening to viewers. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Northwest Governor has promised to shut the doors of churches who fail to regulate their existence. This is after some 30 children were discovered in a church, children ranging from the ages of 2 weeks old to 9 years old that were discovered in a worship house in Bamenda. And also in this newscast, candidates have less than 24 hours to submit the files of their various nominated candidates for upcoming senatorial elections in the country. And the intentions of Cameroon's House Speaker Kavayi Yegejibril still remains preoccupying to many observers in the country. And another pope still highly awaited after another smoke issues out of the Sistine Chapel, where the 115 cardinals are voting. These are major headlines, details and more just in a moment. Good evening to you viewers. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. We begin right away in politics. As I announced in the headlines, political parties have less than 24 hours to select and submit their various candidates to take part in upcoming senatorial elections in the country. The Political Bureau of the CPDM today met with the party's investiture commission to decide on which candidate would stand for upcoming senatorials in the country, and questions are still being raised as to whether House Speaker's intention would be accepted, that is being a senator in the country would be accepted. And Roland Akon in the following report looks at the case of Cameroon's House Speaker Kavayi Yegejibril and also the mood in the headquarters of other political parties, that is in the capital city. Yaoundé. His report.
Will the CPDM party block House Speaker Kavayi from standing as candidate for the election of senators? This question is widespread, especially in the press, as President Biya decides in the CPDM Investiture Commission candidates of the party for the senatorial. Reports we are yet to confirm say CPDM party hierarchies are not pleased with MPs, especially the House Speaker, and some mayors of the party who want to dump the lower house and move to the upper house of assembly. At the time of this report, the CPDM Investiture Commission was still meeting in Yaoundé. In the SDF party, the Investiture Commission is meeting in Bamenda. After the meeting, Chairman Fruni will send the list of SDF candidates for the senatorial straight to Elekam. The mood is same in the headquarters of the other political parties which are going in for the senatorial. At the head office of Elekam, all is set for the deposit of the list. A delegation of Commonwealth observers were at Elekam's head office Wednesday, and board members of Elekam are expected to meet tomorrow in Yaoundé with one item on agenda, the April 14 senatorial.
Calm now reigns in Ezeka in the center region of the country. Precarious one, of course, days after a fire incident consumed a fuel tanker and also a train. Senior reporter Chris Tobin in the following report takes a look at how the population have been coping after the incident. His report.
Serenity and tentative calm seem to have returned to Ezeka in the Nyongankele division after the fire incident that sent fright round the town from the Ezeka train station. But who damaged the entire fuel tank remains the unanswered question. That notwithstanding, neighbors to the railway station are back to their homes after fleeing last March 9th. Panic-stricken, they fled out of fear from being extinguished by the flames as the wounds still remain fresh as if it were yesterday. Activities at the railway station, though resuming timidly, still let see a team of cleaners busy rendering the place attractive once again, but for the tanker and the locomotive consumed by flames, that still reminds one of the aborted catastrophe, though traumatism remains days after the danger has been avoided.
Now, the suspect behind the serial killings reported few weeks or months ago in Mimbomane locality in the central region of the country they wouldn't go unpunished. The 8 suspects behind the Mimboman serial killings will be brought to court to answer charges of murder and also mutilation of corpses. Roland Akon in the following report tells us that the 8 suspects are now being detained at the Yaoundé Central Prison. We surely shall be coming back to the report on the suspect of serial killings in Mimboman in the central region of the country in our subsequent newscast. Now we take you to Bamenda Northwest region of the country, where the Northwest governor has warned that churches in Bamenda should regulate their activities or would be closed down in the days ahead. This decision is coming as after some yet to be identified 30 children were reportedly found in the keeping of some members of a church in Bamenda, and a member of the said worship house who reportedly died, and it was when the family members came to collect his mortal remains that the children were discovered, and parents of the kids had earlier revealed that the children were missing. Meanwhile, the governor has called on parents to come to the end of tower at the Longla Street in Bamenda Northwest region of the country to identify the said children. So far, just one child has been identified. And still in the Northwest region of the country, police women in Bamenda say they possess motherly qualities and that their doors are open to those in need of their services. They were speaking in Bamenda as they offered foodstuff and other basic needs to some underprivileged children. A Bamenda-based correspondent from Kenneth tells us more in the following report.
Orphans of the Mispa Orphanage Center in Bamenda have benefited some foodstuff, items made up of bags of rice, cartons of soaps, toilet tissues, bags of salt, and other items from the police ladies in Bamenda. Addressing the 140 orphans, the senior superintendent of police, Mrs. Tambe, urged the orphans to be hardworking, avoid evil doing, and be God-fearing children. Thanking the police women for their goodwill gesture, in a joint voice, the mistress of the center, Mrs. Nkwenti Anastasia, and matron Madame Celine expressed joy and happiness while sharing the word of God, followed with singing and dancing. The senior superintendent of police, Mrs. Tambe, had this as a key message to the orphan.
Or a demon, but a policeman is also a human being who feels, who has compassion, who has a mercy, who has pity, who, when he's not in duty, can also behave like any ordinary citizen. So they should not look on police people like extraordinary beings. Let people not be afraid of police people, but on the contrary, let them have the mind to come closer to us. Let them not run away from us.
While Mrs. Nkwenti Anastasia expressed her words of thanks.
And the Bible says that God blesses the hands of the giver. God blesses the hands of the giver even more than the giver than even the receiver. That God should bless them in and replenish them. Bless their families, bless their children.
That was what we gathered for you from the Northwest region. Fon Kenneth is my name. Stay blessed.
Thanks indeed, Fon Kenneth, reporting there from Bamenda Northwest region of the country. Now, a new pope still being awaited to head the Roman Catholic papacy. A black smoke has for the second time issued from the Sistine Chapel in Rome, where the 115 cardinals are voting, an indication that the exercise is still unconclusive. Further votes are expected to hold this afternoon, and they would have to vote 4 times daily until a single candidate has a 2/3 majority. A successful vote would immediately be followed by white smoke. Now we talk sports, where 4 presidents of some sports federations have been suspended by 4 Sports and Physical Education Minister Adam Garua, and the decision issued on Tuesday, that was yesterday, follows their inability to render accounts on the usage of funds put at their disposal by the ministry to manage some sports events in the country. Their suspension is coming at a time when elections are about to hold in the federation, what some sports pundits have, however, described as plans to knock them out of the competition. We shall be coming back to that in our subsequent newscast, and that does it for this segment of the news. Well, stay tuned, for Talking Point is up next. Thanks indeed, viewers, for joining us tonight on Talking Point. Of course, the upcoming senatorial elections in the country is still top on the agenda, and tonight we have a barrister law to clarify us on the issue of incompatibility and eligibility of the various candidates vying for posts in upcoming senatorial elections. Good evening, Barrister Roland Abeng, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, madam.
Like I earlier said, there's this issue of what remains a problem and still confusing to many Cameroonians, and also those, of course, vying for posts in upcoming senatorial elections, is whether mayors and members of parliament are eligible enough to go in for the elections.
The post of mayor, any public elective post, is incompatible to that of senator or member of parliament, member of National Assembly. It's good. Let's have that very clear. The law says, the electoral code of Cameroon today says that the post of mayor, any public office, when they say public office, we are talking here of this other civil servant or elective post, regional body, and all the sorts. Those posts, you cannot have those posts and be parliamentarian or be senator. It's impossible.
So an indication that a deputy or a member of parliament cannot stand for upcoming
there's a difference between standing or vying for the post and sitting as a member of that post. Now, let me give this example. You have the senatorial elections that will take place very soon. There are members of parliament who are interested. If they get elected before the proclamation of the results, just immediately after the proclamation of the results, they have to resign from parliament. They have to withdraw from parliament. That's what the law says.
So now the case of House Speaker Kavayi,
he is in his element. That one, he is in his element. He can stand. A parliamentarian can stand. Forget whether it's irrespective. The post he is holding as House Speaker is irrelevant. He is parliamentarian. He can stand, but before the proclamation of the results,
he's supposed to step down.
He's supposed to step down as parliamentarian, which also means stepping down as Speaker of the House of Parliament.
So meaning that any deputy can go in.
Of course, yes. Mayors are going in. Mayors are going in. Civil servants are going in. Presidents of board of directors of state corporations are going in. They are going in knowing that if they are successful, immediately after they proclaim the results, they are stepping down.
Is that how it should go?
Basically, I think that it's very fair for them because some of them will not succeed. It's very fair for those people who are trying their hand into the in the elections.
What do you mean by they will not succeed?
Some of them will not succeed. I mean, there will be some lists that will not be elected. That I know. I mean, it's irrespective of the fact that it's CPDM or SDFs. There are some lists
that will not be voted by the
some councillors. People will not be voted by the councillors, which means some people will not be elected. Some people who expect to be appointed will not be appointed by the president. Remember, 30% of the 100 senators are to be appointed by the President of the Republic. So those who are not successful might want to go back to their or occupy the post that they occupied previously.
So is there a case where one of the files might be rejected as a reason, as a result of one reason or the other? And
yes.
Why?
Well. The law says that certain positions, certain occupations are incompatible with that of senator. That's what the law says. The law lists out those positions, those posts, those occupations. There's board of directors, president of board of directors of state corporations or parapublic corporations. There's mayors. You have parliamentarians. These incompatibilities come in immediately after the proclamation of the results. They proclaim you as having won the elections, and immediately after, before you take office as senator, it has to be proven that you are no longer board of director, president of board of director, or civil servant, or employee. You have to prove that you are not occupying a previous post.
Okay, I understand clearly. And now, talking about the issue of eligibility, those to vote, the councillors are those to vote, meaning an indication that councillors, of course, can go in for senatorial elections, of course. Now, we take a look at deputies who are not eligible to vote. Is that not also a problem that your own personal vote cannot be counted?
If I understand your question well, deputies are not voting.
They are not voting.
Yes, by deputies you mean parliamentarians.
Of course.
Yes,
and maybe
which is just the law. The law says those who elect senators are municipal councillors and regional councillors.
So some of those municipal councillors who can equally go in as senators, of course.
Yes, yes.
Meaning that they can also count on their personal votes.
Yeah, of course, the president of the republic votes for himself when it's presidential elections.
So is it not a problem when you cannot vote for yourself, like a senator and maybe some of those parliamentarians that cannot vote for themselves, because a deputy is not a councillor?
Well,
an indication that
it's the law, and the law has its irregularities. I'm not protecting the law. I'm just saying that what the law says is that there's an electoral college, and this electoral college is composed of municipal councillors and regional councillors. For now, we don't have regional councillors. We have municipal councillors. About 11,000 of them will go to the polls and elect the senators. There's not much we can do about it.
Because there's also a problem that if you are going in as a candidate and you cannot give yourself a vote or vote for yourself, is a problem.
At the end of the day, I'm not sure a candidate will lose by 1 vote or by 2 votes. Listen, I'm totally against this issue of electoral college. There should be universal suffrage for all our elections. Out of 7 million voters, 11,000 people will go and vote. It doesn't reflect. I also do not support the fact that 30% of the senators are appointed by the President of the Republic. That's a fact, that's the law. Until we change the law, until the people who sit in parliament make laws that are acceptable, that reflect democracy, then there's very little we can do. That's the law, and let it be applied to the letter.
Now, up to now, the voters' cards of the various municipal councillors are yet to be available.
I am sure Elecam is working on it. I'm not trying to speak on behalf of Elecam here, but what I remember that Elecam has also already come out with a communique giving directives as to the senatorial elections. I remember that Elecam has already published the list of those to vote, which means that Elecam is within the deadline. I'm sure that before elections, those who are supposed to vote will have their cards. That I am sure. It's an easy ride for Elecam this time around. I think it's a test run for them. They should be able to meet up with the challenges that surround this particular election. And if they don't succeed on this one, you can be sure they will not succeed for the ones that everybody will be participating in.
Is the biometric registration of voters applicable to this election?
Not really. Not really. It talks of municipal councillors voting, which means that you can be a municipal councillor at the age of 18, for example, and vote. That's what it says. They publish the list of municipal councillors. There's nothing that makes reference to biometric registration. We are talking here of an electoral college. The people who are voting have a particular description. They are municipal councillors. They are not talking here of Cameroonians eligible to vote. They are talking of municipal councillors. So if there's a municipal councillor that is aged 19 years, you can be sure that although that municipal councillor is not yet 20, as per the law that permits him to vote, he can vote. He can rightly vote.
So what you are trying to say is that these senatorial or those to vote the electoral college, they are not included in the biometric registration?
They are. But when we talk of the electoral college, we are not talking of universal suffrage. Getting yourself listed on. Remember that these municipal councillors, some have died. These municipal councillors were elected during the time of ONEL, the National Elections Observatory. These municipal councillors, were actually at that time were elected as per a particular law. This time around, we have a law organizing a new electoral code. We have the law organizing the Senate. Now, the law says that municipal councillors elected when they were elected, 2007, would be doing the vote. You can't change it. That's how it is. So the municipal councillors that exist are the municipal councillors that exist under that old law.
What makes it different from other elections when the biometric registration was coming in, maybe to put an end or without the issue of bias or
to me, it's a good question you've asked there,
elections.
and I wish that we had done the right things first. Which your question just comes back to what the popular cry is. We would have organized the municipal elections first. We would have had a proper representation of the political landscape, and then the elected municipal councillors, who would have been elected under ELECAM, would have voted for the senators, making us to have a well-structured political landscape as per the will of the people. Unfortunately, this will not be the case. This will not be the case. We are in a situation where out of 11,000 voters, 11,000 members of the Electoral College to vote for the senatorial elections, about 9,000 and more come from one political party. It doesn't look very interesting.
So what you are trying to say is the issue of transparency and credibility is somehow questionable in this
no.
election.
If the CPDM,
because
if the CPDM at this stage, the CPDM has nothing to do with, it doesn't need to fraud anything.
No, I'm not.
They will have
the
at least,
party.
if the CPDM carries out transparent elections, they will have at least 90% of the senators, because they have almost 90% of that electorate, the people who vote. That's as simple arithmetic. So if Paul Biya doesn't have pity on some of those people, he will not even appoint them. They accepted the law and let it be applied. It's useless begging for pity, asking for pity. There's no argument. Let's not argue about this thing.
So does it
Out
mean
of
the issue of
11,000
transparency and credibility does not have
at
a
this
place?
stage, CPDM,
It does not have a place.
I find myself defending CPDM here, but CPDM doesn't need to fraud to have more than 90% of the senators. SDF and the other parties have accepted to go for these elections. They know that CPDM has more than 9,000 voters out of 11,000. They will respect party guidelines. Let's not pretend, except LCF is begging Paul Biya to give them some seats, or UDC or UNDP giving them, please, inside the 30%, give us some few seats. I can understand. But I don't see how a CPDM municipal councillor would vote for an SDF senator. I don't see that happening. Except some magic will happen, but I don't see it happening. So if it's carried out transparently, and people vote on party lines, as SDF expects to vote, then CPDM will have at least 90% of the senators.
My worry is it has to do with maybe today, not only today but tomorrow as well. Because if transparency is not a question, because the ruling, the CPDM is having the highest number of those to vote the senators, if transparency is not an issue because they have the highest number of those to vote, then it's also a problem because the senatorials will come up. It's not only today that we are going to be voting senators.
Yes.
It's going to be applicable in the nearest future.
5 years after, because senators are elected for 5 years. 5 years after, there would have been.
My question is whether transparency and credibility shouldn't be an issue as well.
Well, my problem, I'm just trying to answer your question, and my answer is simple. We know the electorate. We know which party the electorate belongs to in its overwhelming majority. We know that. Therefore, it would be utopia to think to go into this election if you are not CPDM and think you will win. It will be utopia, except you are asking for pity from the head of state, who has to appoint 30% of the senators. If you are expecting some pity, that please, Mr. Head of State, appoint me. After the results, after the elections, you can appoint me among those who have. That's simple logic. I am saying that we don't have to worry about transparency, because the results of this election, if you are looking to have more than 50% in each province, there's a possibility that in each region, there's a possibility that within 9 regions, CPDM will have at least 50% of the votes for the senators.
Now we have barely less than 24 hours to the submission of the various nominated candidates of the various political parties, of course, to take part in the senatorial elections. What happens between now and the 14th of April?
Oh, well, there would be a final list that will come out. You know, political parties are now meeting to agree, make a final list on which of to send. Remember that 7 members from each region, for each political parties, and 7 supplementary members. That is, you have the substantive list and the supplementary list. They will send to Elecam. Elecam will.
What's the essence of the supplementary list?
Well, sometimes you might be elected and anything happens between the time when you are elected and the results, or between the results and, or you might be elected and then appointed after.
Okay.
Then there should be automatically be a replacement. I think that's the essence of the supplementary list. Now that's how Elecam will come up with a final publication showing the candidates per party and their supplementary members.
And now the voting unfolds.
And then the voting will take place. There's already a communique with regards to vote. I hear there will be about 20 a number of polling stations that have already been declared. The law says that there should be at least a polling station in each divisional headquarters. Elecam has created more polling stations. At this stage, sincerely, Mimi, I don't see any cause for concern with regards to transparency. The party,
really
there's a party whom we accuse for fraud, doesn't need to get to fraud to win this one. It's already done. The party we accuse for fraud each time is in its element. They are going in. We have accepted the other parties that have decided to go in with them. They already know what the results will be. We should not talk about transparency or intransparency or fraud here. This thing, Elecam just need to do a clean job.
Of course, thanks indeed, Barrister Roland Abeng, for
It's my
joining us
pleasure
tonight
being with
on
you
Talking
this evening.
Point. And to you viewers, that was Barrister Roland Abeng telling us or clarifying our doubts on the issue of incompatibility and eligibility of the various candidates vying for posts in upcoming senatorial elections in the country. We have come to the end of this edition of the Primetime Newscast on ETV. We thank you so much for your keen attention. Have a wonderful stay in the company of our programs, and good evening.